Welcome, this is Monty, once again from DPL Surveillance Equipment. We're a full-service surveillance and security equipment company. We have lifetime guarantees and warranties on all the products. We have 24/7, 365 tech sales and customer support. We have perhaps the largest inventory of items that not only can you buy, but you can rent and lay away as well. And we have a very large demonstration video library where you can peruse the library and take advantage of watching us demonstrate such high-tech law enforcement grade products as GPS trackers, the bug detectors, the digital video recorders, digital voice recorders, nanny cameras, anti-terrorist products, bulletproof vests, etc., you name it. We're demonstrating it in the video library. And then the articles directory, check out the articles directory and you can learn a lot about different things such as how to whether or not something such as blockers and jammers, GPS blockers or jammers are legal or not. We can demonstrate and show you guys how to operate all sorts of exotic equipment. And the articles directory will give you a lot of educational information, a lot of background information on such things as even counter surveillance sweeps, how to do a good sweep, so that when you finally get your bug detector or when you finally get your nanny camera, you know a lot about where nanny cameras come from, and where the technology is going, and where we are presently. So there's a lot of different things that you can learn in the articles directory. Okay, and let's see here. We're just giving Facebook a little bit of time to assemble as many people as possible. Okay. So getting right into this particular session. Oh yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to give us a call. 888-344-3742. That's 888-344-3742. Now this particular session is called the CyberSecurity Newsflash, episode number 9. Okay, we're all the way up to episode number 9 with the CyberSecurity Newsflash, episode number 9. Titled Using IBM's Watson and AI or Artificial Intelligence to Defeat Cybercrimes. Again, using IBM's Watson and AI or Artificial Intelligence to defeat cybercrimes. Now, the reason why we're putting emphasis on artificial intelligence is because cybercrimes and cyber attacks, for the most part, they've been very prevalent, okay, and very much in the news, and it's a major challenge to try to figure out what targets the hackers are going to hack next, whether or not they're going to be hacking software, Internet of Things or IoT devices, whether or not they're going to be compromising humans by doing social engineering. There's a number of different what we call vectors or point of attacks. Okay, so again, the vectors are typically described as point of attacks, and so and because it's such a challenge trying to anticipate where hackers are going to hack next or strike next, a number of experts and researchers are starting to take a look at using artificial intelligence again, or what we call machine learning, to figure out even neural networks are going to play a part in terms of trying to figure out how to counter these cyber attacks and breaches and protect the databases and the valuable assets and property of government and corporate America. Now, having said all that, we're going to start off with some information about Donald Trump. Okay, so meanwhile, Trump's presidency, because this is relevant to the subject matter, you guys. So meanwhile, Trump's presidency raises encryption and surveillance fears. The Trump presidency could lead to a standoff with China over cyber espionage, increasing pressure on Silicon Valley companies to break encryption and a restoration of the Patriot Act, according to a leading think tank summary of his election campaign. Okay, the Washington-based Information Technology and Innovation Foundation, otherwise known as ITIF or ITIF, they had a briefing document on Trump's technology and innovation policy And it makes for pretty grim reading for supporters of human rights and international diplomacy. Okay? It reminds us of the former reality TV star's promise to unilaterally apply tariffs against China if it fails to stop illegal activities and to adopt a zero tolerance policy on intellectual property theft. Okay, that's a quote in terms of what Donald Trump was saying about adopting this. Again, he wants to adopt a zero tolerance policy on intellectual property theft. Okay, now this could lead to problems for U.S. companies, especially Apple, Microsoft, Qualcomm, and others operating in the Middle Kingdom. I don't know what that means, Middle Kingdom. We're likely to suffer severe reprisals if this happens. Although Presidents Obama and Xi signed an agreement promising neither side would engage in state-sponsored economic espionage. Okay, it's still believed that this happens on the Chinese side, rather. Okay, despite Obama and President Xi signing this agreement, you guys. So it looks like, as far as we can tell, nobody's abiding by the agreement. Trump has said in the past he fully agrees with the FBI's attempts to force Apple into building a backdoor to allow access to the San Bernardino shooter's iPhone. He even called for a boycott of the firm. Again, Trump has said in the past he fully agreed with the FBI's attempts to force Apple into building a backdoor to allow access to the San Bernardino shooter's iPhone, and he even called for a boycott of the firm. So this is not good news for Apple, basically, based upon the past rhetoric by Donald Trump, okay, wanting to install backdoors. This goes against a lot of the things that that Silicon Valley firms are trying to get behind. They're trying to make sure that we have strong encryption, okay? There's a firm belief in Washington that if you dumb down encryption, that doesn't do anyone any good, okay? So again, when you dumb down encryption, that basically doesn't do anyone any good. So we're trying to figure out how do you have strong encryption and for everyone, or on the converse, when you dumb down encryption, you have encryption for no one. Okay, it doesn't work for anyone. So you can't make exceptions with this type of technology when it comes to encryption. Either everyone's going to have strong encryption, or no one's going to have it. So the Trump administration needs to do the one thing the government is capable of doing: update regulation to allow private corporations to better protect themselves, even if these updates make it more difficult for the intelligence community to function. Okay. Before Trump won the election, the government proved time and time again that it's not capable of protecting its citizens or even itself from cyber attacks. He argued. Okay. And Matt Little, vice president of product encryption at company PKeyware, this is Matt Little. He said he hoped the private sector would be incentivized to invest in measures to protect itself. Again, related to all of this, Trump's position on Homeland Security is also uncompromising, with previous statements claiming he wants to reintroduce the Patriot Act. Okay, there are real fears that Trump will oversee a massive expansion of surveillance operations in the United States. So what we're dealing with here is at least talk that gives us the impression that he wants to roll back some of the things that Silicon Valley is actually trying to press forward on, and that's strong encryption, that's getting government out of our private affairs unless we allow them in. Okay, so it means government has to do a little bit more work, but at the same time, we get to have privacy again, and they have to get warrants, and law enforcement has to do the things that are actually going to that they need to do as far as doing their homework and do some legwork in order to accomplish what they need to accomplish. So let's see. But perhaps the most worrying thing about the next 4 years is the fact that the man at the helm appears to have little appetite to engage in technology-related issues, and even claims there is no shortage of skilled STEM workers. I think that's science, technology, English, and math. I think it was engineering and math workers in the United States. So Trump doesn't seem to agree with the idea that there's a shortage of STEM workers in the United States, and everyone else seems to think there is a major shortage of STEM. So that's a major issue because, as far as we can tell, we need to train more people, get more people into the STEM areas, and at the same time, Donald Trump doesn't think there's a problem at all with that. So let's see here. Moving right along, adult websites breached as 412 users exposed. Again, adult websites breached as 412 million users are exposed. Data from more than 412 million user accounts was stolen from Friend Finder's dating, chat, and pornography sites. Okay, this reminds us of the Ashley Madison hack, where there was a lot of compromising information exposed on adults trying to have casual relationships with married and unmarried people at the same time. Friend Finder Networks Incorporated is investigating reports that data from more than 412 million user accounts was stolen from 5 of the company's online dating, sex, chat, and pornography sites. The stolen data includes 20 years of customer email addresses and passwords, according to leakedsource.com. That's leaked, Leaked, source.com, an anonymously run website that sells access to stolen records. Okay, that's leaked source. They're an anonymous website, anonymously run website that sells access to stolen records. Many of the stolen records are from accounts that are no longer active, leaked source said. Others may be duplicates or created by automated programs known as bots. So they're basically saying that there is not, we don't have the reassurance that these, all of these records are unique and separate and distinct records, but because it seems right now that there could be a number of duplicates and maybe records generated by bots. This has yet to be confirmed. Leaked source said most of the records, at least 340 million of them, were taken from adultfriendfinder.com, which facilitates casual relationships. In February, Friend Finder Network said Adult Friend Finder had more than 60 million users. Data was also stolen from penthouse.com and cams.com and stripshow.com and icams.com, according to leaked source. So they got a number of different companies that they're responsible for, and it seems like a lot of these records are coming from the various other companies that operate under Friend Finder. A spokesman for Friend Finder Networks couldn't confirm leaked source's claims, but said via email the company is investigating several reports regarding potential security vulnerabilities. The company is in the process of notifying affected users to provide them with information and guidance on how they can protect themselves, the spokesman said. And this is really funny because if you're trying to have casual relationships with other people, married or whatever, and that information finds itself in the wrong hands, you're going to be in an embarrassing situation. I don't care what remedial procedures or policies that these guys try to initiate after the fact. The bottom line is, someone's going to be able to perhaps ruin your marriage or relationship because this information is now it's out there. It's not like a free credit monitoring service is going to help you at all. Okay, so I think a lot of these people are going to have some definitely some marital issues and etc. going forward. Friend Finder Network said its penthouse assets. Friend Finder Network sold its penthouse assets to Penthouse Global Media Incorporated in February. We are aware of the data hack. We are aware of the data hack, and we are waiting on Friend Finder to give us a detailed account of the scope of the breach and the remedial actions in regard to our data. This is from a Penthouse Global Media spokeswoman. She said this via email. Penthouse Global Media assumed full control of Penthouse.com in May of 2006 and immediately forced all users to change passwords as a security precaution, she said. Okay. The incident echoes last year's hack of, again, AshleyMadison.com, a website built to facilitate extramarital affairs. In that case, a hacker posted emails, email addresses, names, credit card details of Ashley Madison users, prompting grief and embarrassment amongst its users. In the Friend Finder case, a leaked source said it wasn't publishing the stolen data. So again, this is really controversial, only because I think once data is stolen, you really can't give anyone the reassurance that that data ultimately won't be published and is not being published somewhere at some point in time. If it's stolen, it's stolen, and we don't know. You can't know for sure. So it's not really reassuring that Friend Finder would say this, and at the same time, I think those people just better take precaution and assume that that information is going to ultimately get published. Okay. On Sunday, let's see. It's not clear how or when the data was stolen. In October, an anonymous hacker reported finding a programming flaw on AdultFriendFinder.com. Leak source believes that these flaws may have led to the latest compromise. On Sunday, leak source published data schemas of the information it had obtained, showing how it was formatted on Friend Finder's computers. So again, that's one way of verifying where information came from, based upon how it's formatted and some attributes that could help associate it or tie it back to where it supposedly came from. So the data schema seems to indicate that indeed this data came from friendfinder.com. Okay. Based on the data signatures, there is no reason to doubt that it is legitimate. But we have not seen the data, said Alex Holden, whose firm Hold Security investigates data breaches. Leaked source has published more than 2 billion records since March, including data taken from LinkedIn Corp and MySpace. One of the biggest thefts of personal data on a website's users, Yahoo, said in September that hackers in late 2014 obtained names, email addresses, passwords, and other information on more than 500 million accounts. So this was highly publicized. A lot of you guys know about the LinkedIn issue, and so that's welcome, Eric. So that's fully known, but that's at the same time one of the biggest compromises of all time. This is the second reported hack of AdultFriendFinder.com. Last year, the UK's or United Kingdom's Channel 4 News reported that it had found a database of 3.9 million of the site's members in an online hacker forum. So that's the bottom line on another Ashley Madison type hack where it seems like the hackers are trying to make a point for moral or ethical reasons or something, which is kind of ironic. But it looks like the hackers are actually compromising these databases and exposing. Excuse me while I adjust this camera. It looks like I get a little bit of glare, but it looks like, of all things, the hackers are taking it upon themselves to expose records, and these records right now, a lot of them are all about adult sites where you supposedly get the opportunity to meet other people and develop relationships, married or not, but ironically, the hackers are taking a look at this and they're saying, we're going to expose expose these people for whatever reason, and it looks like that's exactly what they're doing. They're going to these sites, and these guys are hacking into those sites, and looks like there's major issues or major problems now with those particular sites. So moving right along, Google. Okay, this is an interesting article, and I'm going to just leave it up to you guys to do some further reading on. I'm going to probably put it in the show notes, but I just thought I would throw it in. Google's AI or artificial intelligence can create its own encryption. Okay, basically Google is joining Microsoft and IBM and other major players as far as using computers and such, or artificial intelligence, even machine learning to get a handle on AI. Okay, so I'll include this in the show notes. This particular example, as far as I'm concerned, didn't give me a whole lot of real good concrete information as far as how Google is using artificial intelligence. So I'll include this one in the show notes, but it's entitled Google AI Can Create Its Own Encryption, and it just gives an example of people who are trying to encrypt and decrypt and have a man in the middle or a hacker in the middle and try to compromise it. So anyway, I apologize for not conveying that article for what it's worth in the way I was reading. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Make a whole lot of sense. So anyway, moving right along to the next one. The next title or subject, fake Apple iOS apps are rampant. Again, fake Apple iOS apps are rampant. Now, what's going on here is kind of interesting, mainly because Apple is well known for their quality control in their app store. Okay, now unfortunately, when you submit an app to Apple's store, they do a lot of checking to make sure that that app it meets high standards. You know, make sure it's safe and secure and doesn't have back doors and ways that it can be compromised and such. But the hackers seem to have found a way to compromise an app after the fact, and I'll give you some. We'll read this to you so you can get an idea of what's going on here, and then we'll go back and take a look at something I want to point out here. The Apple iOS environment is riddled with malicious fake apps signed with enterprise certificates and had the same bundle IDs as their official versions on the App Store. Let's see here. Okay, let's see here. Okay, that glare is really shining on my glasses. Okay, again, the Apple iOS environment is riddled with malicious fake apps signed with enterprise certificates and had the same bundled IDs as their official versions on the App Store. Repackaged versions of Pokemon Go, Facebook, and several other gaming apps are just some of the affected titles. Although iOS 10 has pulled the plug on App Store / legitimate apps, updating and overriding their copycats, fake apps still affect devices running on iOS 9.3.5 or earlier. They can still be re-signed, installed, and run on iOS devices as long as they tote the same bundle IDs, according to Trend Micro, and have a valid certificate. First reported in 2014, a similar technique called the mask attack, MASQUE, the mask attack, allowed hackers to replace a genuine app from the App Store with a malformed enterprise-signed app that had the same bundle identifier or bundle ID. Apple subsequently patched the vulnerabilities CVE-2015-3772 and CVE-2015-3725. But while it closed a door, scammers simply opened a window. HIMA and other third-party app stores are abusing a feature in iOS's code signing process to achieve the same effect. More than just creating fake versions, the vulnerabilities pose serious risks in that bad guys can target legitimate apps to distribute their malware. This is Trend Micro saying this. Trend Micro researchers explain in a blog, scammers only need to create malicious content bearing the same bundle IDs as the genuine apps, then ride on its popularity to entice users into installing the malware. Homegrown apps used by enterprises can also be spoofed, re-signed, repackaged via the same bundle IDs. So just to make sure that we get the gist of the vulnerability here, it looks like the bundle ID or the bundle identifier is at the heart of how these hackers are taking advantage of having an app in the App Store. It looks like the quality control is somehow not getting a handle on making sure that the bundle ID has not been compromised or not. Okay, at least until we get to iOS 10. So far as I can tell, 9.3.5 is a major problem. The repercussions to legitimate apps also vary depending upon how their data controls app behavior or how their functionalities are implemented. Crooks can route the legitimate app to a malicious service to fish for personally identifiable information or even directly steal the user's online bank accounts. They can also modify an app's functions, such as replacing URLs opened by the app to download malware, which is run after users trust the certificate. So again, you start off with a legitimate app, you compromise it, and you install fake URLs that ultimately send you to some banking site or somewhere where it asks you for legitimate information and compromises your identity and account user information, whatever, after the fact. The legitimate app's advertisement ID can also be modified so the revenue generated from its monetized ads is sent to the scammer instead. So the advertisement ID is compromised, you guys, and the bundle ID is another vulnerability that needs to be looked at very closely for you researchers out there, okay? Scammers need only prepare a relatively modest toolkit to re-sign the app, Trend Micro researchers added. App developers who incorporate functions such as in-app purchases are advised to follow Apple's official guidelines, particularly how to validate receipts with the App Store, as well as employ mechanisms that can deter scammers from reverse engineering the app. The company recommended businesses that support iOS devices are recommended to balance mobility and productivity with privacy and security conscious policies, especially when adopting BYOD, or bring your own device. Aside from keeping the iOS up to date, the risks serve as a reminder for end users to be aware of downloading apps from dubious third-party marketplaces. So, far as the bottom line is concerned, make sure you know where you're getting the apps from. Make sure you understand that some app stores do a better job of policing and verifying and double checking quality than others, and so like anything else, when you're clicking on emails and such, text messages with links in them, whatever, those are some of the major vulnerabilities, and those are going to be weak spots or weak links, for the most part. So exercise good internet hygiene, if you will. Moving right along, the main gist of the main story here. Okay, finally, we're Watson for cybersecurity. Again, Watson, the supercomputer developed by IBM is called Watson, and this particular session is called Watson for cybersecurity. IBM captured our imaginations when it unveiled Watson, the artificial intelligence computer capable of playing and winning the Jeopardy game show. Since then, Big Blue has been introducing Watson's analytics and learning capabilities across various industries, including healthcare and information security. Cognitive security technologies such as Watson for cybersecurity can change how information security professionals defend against attacks by helping them digest vast amounts of data. IBM Security is currently in the middle of a year-long research project working with 8 universities to help train Watson to tackle cybercrime. Watson has to learn the language of cybersecurity to understand what a threat is, what it does, and what indicators are related. Make threat intelligence meaningful, a 4-point plan. 1, discover how to secure your system with InfoWorld Security Report newsletter. Okay. Generally, we learn by examples, says Nasir Memon, professor of computer science and engineering at New York State University, Tandon School of Engineering. We get an algorithm and examples, and we learn when we are able to look at a problem and recognize it as similar to other incidents. Information security is no stranger to machine learning. It's no stranger to machine learning. Again, information security is no stranger to machine learning. Many next-generation security defenses already incorporate machine learning, big data, and natural language processing. What's different with cognitive computing is the fact that it can blend human-generated security knowledge with more traditional security data. Consider how much security knowledge passes through the human brain and comes out in the form of research documents, industry publications, analyst reports, and blogs. So again, the strong point here, you guys, is that we as humans, we can absorb a lot of information from various sources. So again, the bottom line is, as far as that's concerned, I just want to make sure I didn't lose my signal. We process a lot of information as human beings, reading research papers, industry publications, again, analyst reports, etc., and blogs. And we process this information by spewing it out and getting access to it from our memory and making sense of it. This is one area where computers are really, really strong, because they can absorb millions and millions of data records, and then use that information or spew that information out in various formats to thousands of people if necessary, at the same time, to make sure that people are alerted to anomalies that should be looked at. Okay, someone saw or read something and thought it was important enough to write a blog post or a paper about it, says Jeb Linton. He's the chief security architect at IBM Watson. Cognitive systems can recognize the rich contextual significance of that piece of knowledge and apply traditional machine-generated data to help analysts get a better understanding of what they are seeing. So again, we're combining some of the advantages or characteristics of computers and AI to complement some of the shortcomings that we have when we are absorbing a lot of information and trying to make sense out of it. Okay, so we're combining cognitive systems with a lot of things that we're learning as researchers and white hat hackers, etc. Okay, it's about learning how to take human expertise in the form of blog posts, articles, mostly in the form of language, and to use it as training data for machine learning algorithms, Linton said. Technology innovation has to actually address the challenges security professionals are currently facing, or remains on the fringes as a cool but not practical option. Cognitive security has the potential to reduce incident response times, optimize accuracy of alerts, and stay current with threat research. We need to make sure these technologies are actually solving the problems that security professionals are facing, both today and in the future, wrote Diana Kelly on IBM's Security Intelligence. According to recent statistics from IBM Institute of Business Value, 40% of security professionals believe cognitive security will improve detection and incident response decision-making capabilities. 37% believe cognitive security solutions will significantly improve incident response time. Another 36% of respondents think cognitive security will provide increased confidence to discriminate between innocuous events and true incidents. If security analysts were able to stay current on threats and increase accuracy of alerts, they could also reduce response time. More than half, 57%, of security leaders believe that cognitive security solutions can significantly slow the efforts of cyber criminals. Okay, these are high expectations for Watson for cybersecurity, and IBM is working with 8 different universities to feed up to 15,000 new documents into Watson every month. So this is the really significant portion right here that I think makes all the difference. When you can feed 15,000 new documents into a computer and teach it to look for such things as malware and programs, various anomalies in software, certain hints and cues that could potentially be related to cyber hacks and such. This is where you mainly get your advantage, you guys, because the humongous amount of data that you can feed into a computer. Okay, including threat. Okay, so we're feeding you, so we can feed 15,000 new documents into Watson every month, including threat intelligence reports, cybercrime strategies, threat databases, and materials from its own X-Force research library. So again, we're feeding a humongous amount of information into IBM Watson and the various supercomputers, etc., and they're able to crunch a ton of information, much more so than we can, and that's how we get the major advantage as far as getting an opportunity to defeat cybercrime. Okay, so this is where it all makes the difference. In the video below, which I think I have a link for it in the show notes. IBM's Linton and New York State University's Memon talk about how machines learn and what the future of cognitive security technology looks like. It's easy to dismiss cognitive technology and its promises of dramatically changing how information security professionals defend themselves from attackers as mere buzzwords, but interest from other fields is growing as well. Cognitive computing is slated to become a $47 billion industry by the year 2020, according to recent figures from IDC. While cognitive security is still in the early stages, information security professionals see how the technology will help analysts make better and faster decisions using vast amounts of data. So again, it looks like cognitive security is at the forefront or the bleeding edge in terms of getting us where we need to be to defend against what's going on in the cyberspace. And as far as I can tell, IBM's Watson is going to be relied upon to help us understand how to feed into a system tons of information from various different avenues or whatever sources, and at the same time assemble and refine and come up with ways to actually allow us to practically extract and in a pragmatic way, and so we can actually execute based upon the information that we're getting back from Watson, for instance. Okay, so moving right along, we have Microsoft. Okay, this would be incomplete to talk about Apple, to talk about IBM, and to leave out Microsoft. Microsoft is saying artificial intelligence, and it's talking about artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. The future is here. Okay, Microsoft is not going to be left out of the game, and they're saying although we are a very long way from putting artificial intelligence or AI in charge of national defense, the use of AI in cybersecurity isn't science fiction. The ability of machines to rapidly analyze and respond to the unprecedented quantities of data is becoming indispensable as cyber attacks frequency, scale, and sophistication all continue to increase. So this particular sentence is telling us, because of the humongous amount of information that we have to sort through, there's really no other way to weed through this haystack other than to use cognitive security or artificial intelligence. It's just these are the only ways we're going to handle this particular situation here. The research being done shows that automated cybersecurity systems can do many things with only limited human oversight. through neural networks, heuristics, data science, etc. Systems are being designed to identify cyber attacks, to spot and remove malware, and to find ways to fix bugs faster than any human could. So this is a very important bit of information right here. When you're analyzing millions and millions of lines of code to determine whether or not your ATM, whether or not your ATM machines, whether or not your you name it, systems that are designed to run the HVAC of a building, the systems that are designed to run how automobiles get on and off freeways, planes fly in the sky, money transfers from one institution to the other. One very major concern is, sorting through this humongous amount of information is not that easy. So yeah, we're going to need AI. We're going to need the type of security that AI brings to the table. Okay, there's no way around it. Okay, so the buzzword of the day is more than likely going to have to be cognitive security. There's no way around it. It looks like. So the research being done today shows that, again, automated cybersecurity systems can do many things with only limited human oversight. Okay. That being said, there is something qualitatively different about the AI's end game. Example, having cybersecurity decisions taken by technology without human intermediation. So one thing we're going to have to consider in the near future, you guys, is when machines are able to make decisions almost from beginning to end without a whole bunch of human intervention, okay? We'll probably be looking at just the results of having these systems flesh out malware apps that have been compromised, you name it, systems that are under hacker threats or control. Looks like the AI is going to probably just spit out some results after the fact and tell us on some sort of rating system or something whether or not we've effectively remediated the problem or not. This novelty brings with it entirely new challenges. For example, what would legal frameworks around such cybersecurity look like? How would we regulate their creation and their use? What would we in fact regulate? There has already been some insightful writing and research done on this. But for policymakers, the fundamental challenge of defining what an AI is and what it is not remains. Okay, so the jury is still out on basically, who's regulating what and who ultimately is going to be making the policy decisions. Okay, without such fundamentals, even outcomes-oriented approaches could fall short, as there is no certainty about when they must be used. Okay, in fact, AI technologies will be complex. Okay, this goes without saying almost. Many government policymakers may struggle to understand them and how to best oversee their integration and evolution in government, society, and key economic sectors. This is further complicated by the chance that the creation of AI might be a globally distributed effort operating across jurisdictions with potentially distinct approaches to regulation. Smart cars, digital assistants, and algorithmic trading on financial markets are already pushing us towards AI. How could we improve the understanding of the technology, transparency about its decision-making, integrity of its development, and ethics, and the actual control of the technology is in practical terms, okay? So there's a whole lot to consider, especially considering this particular bit about distributed efforts across different jurisdictions, okay? So as we span, from one country to the next, one market to the next with AI, we're going to have to probably rewrite regulation and legislation because there's this seems like we'll be touching on various um, countries in terms of how they handle their own um, regulation in that particular country. But at the same time, I think the algorithms really don't know so much about borders. Okay, when it comes to um, when it comes to this type of technology, it really crosses all sorts of borders and geographic regions, et cetera, et cetera. But it is also critical to understand the role AI can and will play in cybersecurity and resilience. The technology is initially likely to be white hat, enabling critical infrastructures to protect themselves and the essential services they provide to the economy, society, and public safety in new and novel ways. AI may enable systems to anticipate and rapidly mitigate security incidents or advance persistent threats. But as we have seen in cybersecurity, we will likely see criminal organizations or nation states seek to exploit AI to evade cybersecurity defenses or even attack. This means that reaching consensus on cybersecurity norms becomes more important and urgent. The work on cybersecurity norms will need more public and private sector cooperation globally. So in conclusion, it is worth noting that despite the challenges posed by AI and cybersecurity, there are also interesting and positive implications for the balance between cybersecurity and cyber resistance. If cybersecurity teams can rely on smart systems to play defense, their focus can turn to preparing to handle. Their focus can turn to preparing to handle a successful attack's consequences. The ability to reinvent processes, to adapt to black swan events, and to respond to developments that violate the fundamental assumptions on which AI is built should remain distinctly human for some time to come. So it looks like there's going to be a lot to learn and a lot of rewriting of how we are going to hold who accountable. If humans are going to play a less and less role, then that means algorithms probably are going to be written to determine who's going to be responsible ultimately for what if there is a problem, for instance. We just can't hold machines responsible. So there's going to be a lot of writing of algorithms to assign responsibility and hold just to have accountability. So this is a new frontier, and AI and cybersecurity, cognitive security, etc. IBM Watson, Microsoft's efforts, Apple's own issues with bundle IDs and application IDs. These are all in the forefront of the battle in cybersecurity, and it looks like going forward, we're going to be definitely in a new environment, a new realm, so to speak, where there's going to be a lot of mistakes made, but at the same time, if we can get as much AI involved in this particular space, crunching humongous amounts of data, and hopefully the machines, etc., will spit out reliable, pragmatic information that we could act on, shut down cameras, deny access to people, lock doors, open doors, grant permissions and rights to people based upon the data that the AI or the machine learning algorithms are looking at. This all should help us a great deal, and the bottom line, hopefully, speed up the time where we can actually counter the threats. Right now, we're spending too much time with hackers in networks, on networks, just probing around systems forever. And the key to good cybersecurity hygiene is to find out how to get the hackers out of the networks as quickly as possible, and then that way we don't have these ongoing issues like with the various hacks that we've read about here including the SWIFT fiasco with the Federal Reserves or the central bankers, banking networks being compromised. The list goes on and on and on. So anyway, that's pretty much it for cybersecurity newsflash episode number 9, entitled "Using IBM's Watson and AI to defeat cybercrimes." Okay, so we'll put a lot of this information in the show notes. Share this with your security CTOs, chief technology officers, chief information officers, etc., in your particular corporations where you work, and let's see if we can get a handle on this next new frontier in cybersecurity mitigation. Okay, so as we'd like to say at the conclusion of every particular session, share this with a friend, enemy, relative, associate. Invite them back to the next one, and let's see if we can continue to make the world a safer place for all of us. And if you have any questions regarding bug detectors, GPS trackers, nanny cameras, anti-terrorist products, etc., give us a call. We're 24/7, 365, 888-344-3742. That's 888-344-3742. And we look forward to hearing from you. Okay? So you guys have a good day. Thanks. Take care. Bye.